My name is Nia, and I come from a small village called Niabira, nestled near the banks of the great Zambezi River. The story I want to share is not just mine, it belongs to the women who came before me, to my mother, my grandmother, and the women of our village whose fingers wove the stories of our people into our hair. I was about 8 years old when I first understood that braiding was more than just a hairstyle. It was during the Harmattan, when the dry winds would sweep across our land, leaving behind red dust and a silence so heavy you could feel it resting on your skin. That season, my grandmother, Mama Ya, called me to her mat beneath the old baobab tree, the one where all the women of the village gathered in the evenings. She sat me between her knees and dipped her finger into a gourd filled with shea butter, warming it with her palms before massaging it into my scalp. Her fingers worked rhythmically, parting, twisting, and weaving, and as she braided, she began to speak. "Do you know why we braid, Nia?" she asked. I shook my head gently, careful not to interrupt her work. She smiled. "These braids, they are maps, stories, symbols of where we come from and who we are. Long ago, before your mother was born, our ancestors used braids to communicate. Each pattern meant something: tribe, status, age, whether a woman was married or in mourning. Some braids even held messages for freedom. I remember that day vividly because the air around her words felt sacred. She told me about the Ashanti and the Himba, about Fulani braids with beads that sang when the women walked. She spoke of how enslaved Africans braided rice seeds into their hair, seeds that would grow into survival when they were stolen across the ocean. Every twist, every knot, she said, is resistance and memory. That evening, I looked around at the women sitting nearby. Auntie Zula with her crown of thick cornrows, Mama Tandy with zigzag patterns, and little Aya who had just started learning to braid her doll's hair. We were all bound together, not just by blood or land, but by braid. Years passed and I too learned the art. My fingers became quick and sure, weaving strands as my grandmother had. When Mama Ya passed, I was the one who braided her hair one last time, just as she had braided mine when I was small. I used the pattern she always loved, rows that curved like river bends, echoing the life she had poured into our village. Now I braid my daughter's hair beneath the same baobab tree. I tell her stories of warriors and queens, of survival and strength. I remind her that our roots are not only in the soil of Niabira, but in every braid that traces our scalp. So, if you ever come to our village and see the women with their intricate patterns, know this: you're not just looking at hairstyles, you're looking at history, living, breathing, and woven into every strand.